So late coming just means coming late. Is it in our DNA, or is it something that we've just picked up? So you're saying that if someone wants to be on time, they could be on time.
Yeah, it's possible because well, it's something that can be identified with someone. So it could be something that because you have lived in a certain way, you become predictable because there is a structure and there is a pattern concerning the way you do things. And so people can then say, oh, we this person is dependable in this aspect. So it's something that, yes, you can train yourself to be punctual on, to just be a punctual person. Yeah.
Okay, so Mofi and Elizabeth, I have another question. Let's break it down. Why do people come late? Why do people come late for events or for? Do people come late? Wait, do people come late for the exams? No, they don't. So I guess that proves your point that you can be early for what you want to be early for.
So just to add a little bit. The thing is that for that, there's always like maybe 99.999% would come early. And so when you see someone not coming early, you then know for sure that something went wrong. Basically, it's not something that, it's something that was just outside their control in that regard. So maybe just falling sick on that morning and then you wouldn't be able to make that. But it's something that everybody's, eager to be there because, there is a consequence of you missing it, right? So, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so let's break it down. Why do people come late?
Could also be situations where there are some things where we value being early more than other situations. For example, like an exam, you would want to come early for an exam, but in some cultures, if we think about parties, for example, people will give a time for a party, and because of culture, external influences, our environment, how we grew up, and how we view time, we will think it's okay to come later for that event.
Okay, so you're saying the flyer says starts at 2, right? But people will show up at 5.
Yeah, sometimes that happens.
So it's a cultural thing?
Yeah, that could be a cultural thing. It could also be an effect of circumstances. It could be someone who is habitually late for whatever other reason. So there are various factors that come into play.
Okay, so Mofe, could it be that sometimes the time for these events are too long? Like the time frame is such a huge time frame. So, for example, the party starts at 2, but it's going to end at 10. You can't be there from 2 to 10. So you just kind of pick when you want to be there. I'm going to be there at 5, from 5 to 10. Do you think that's one of the reasons?
I mean, depends on the event, as you said. If a party starts at 2 and ends by 10, that means you have like 8 hours to come. And no one plans to stay at a party for 8 hours because you just came here to like see your friends and have a good time. Maximum probably 3, 4. So even like I wouldn't see the point of going at 2 and come back at 10. I'll just be extremely tired. So yeah.
So it's because it's too long. It's too long. That's why people go for parties.
Yeah.
Like go late.
Just for parties. Yeah. But
okay.
Yeah, our parties aren't that important when it comes to coming earlier.
Oh really? Because sometimes it confuses me because I don't know. I see it on the flyer. It starts at 2. So should I go at 2 or should I wait? And then sometimes you're like, other people will get there late. So let me plan to get there late. And so everybody says that, and that one person that makes that mistake, it's not a mistake, but makes the mistake of getting there at 2, you'll be the only one in the party. And you're like, what's happening? I should have stayed home.
Yeah, I've experienced that before.
I've experienced it too, and because I was rushing to get to this event. I was like, I have to go. I'm not going to eat, so I didn't eat at home. I got there and I was the first. I was like, what do I do? I'm like, I'm here already. Why does this thing happen? You wanted to say something?
I feel like what you said is true and what Mufe said is true. It happens that way, but then it's as a function of your involvement. So let's say if you are the organizer of the party, then you will be there early, right? So if you are involved in the activity or in an event, then you would be punctual. Like you would keep to time. You would. So it's a function of if you're coming there as just a guest and you don't see, you're looking at what is going to be your benefit, or you're looking at it as what am I going to be impactful here? Like what would I be doing here? Or then you might play around with the time, whereby it's not necessary as to when you come, as well as when you leave. But if you're really involved and you're engaged in that event, then you know that from the beginning to the end, your attention is needed. And then one is that you have to be there on time, and then you need to be attentive throughout. Yeah, but obviously for things like party, it's a different environment or atmosphere, so that can be permitted. But there are some other events but even with the party, if you're the organizer, for sure, yeah, yeah.
I think if I organize any birthday party, I'll put an end time, and I'll shorten the span of the event. 4 hours starts at 12. Starts at 4. You come at 4. We're not going to open the door for you. I won't say that, but like that's what's going to happen. Okay, I have a question. Let's talk about church, because I've seen this. I've been in church for a long time. I've seen people come late to church, and I'm wondering why. But then I look within. I'm like, there's some services that I have also gone late for, and I noticed that when I go late, it's because I didn't put my mind to it. I didn't put my mind to it. I'm just like, especially virtual services. Oh my God. People come late for virtual services. It's like, did you have to catch the bus to this Zoom meeting? Or I'm like, why? Why? But it's because we don't put our minds to it. But why is this? Why is there that thing? And I see it even at NewSpring. I see it happen where we start at 5:30 p.m. Only a few people show up, and then at 6 o'clock, people now show up. I see it happen in in-person meetings, and I'm like, you came here. Praise and worship wasn't important. Praise and worship is just one of those things. Praise and worship it's just one of those things before the word. So as long as I make it on time for the word, I'm good. Like, where did that come from? Why does that happen? Why do we come late for services?
Well, coming late for services, I would like to speak on that, but like coming late more generally has to do with three things to me. Your priorities, discipline, and buffer time.
Come on.
So your priorities in the sense that, for example, today, I didn't know that this was happening today because I thought it was on Sunday in the morning, but I knew that I had already said that I would be here, and so even if I had a test or I had an assignment due, I'd have to move that, even though I wouldn't want to. That's priorities. So you have to make it important. It has to be important to you for you to want to be there. Because if you don't want to be there, you could always find an excuse to just not be there. Discipline, in the sense that, well, sometimes you're not just completely okay. Sometimes you're tired the day before you had an exam or something came up, you were sick, you had to fix something that got broken, and you're not just in the right mental space to handle doing something. But again, if it's important to you, and sometimes even if it's not important to you, but you just know you have to be there, you just push yourself through just 1 more hour or just 2 more hours of this. And then that's another one, being disciplined enough. And having buffer time. So I find myself, even on my schedule, for example, I have review lecture 2Q04, then 2D03 assignment, then something else, then CAD 1, then Baja. Like, all those things, you won't finish them. Um, but you do it at the same time because you are trying to maybe push yourself because you believe that there's a chance. We always overestimate the good possibility of something happening, and we don't give enough time for it not working out because most of the times it won't work out. I would say you should always try to come 15 minutes earlier because let's say you're going out the door and you forget your keys, like me. The bus, the bus almost leaves, so you have to run. And now you're tired. You can't walk that far. Something always comes up. And so if you just give yourself a bit of time, you will find yourself coming either a bit early or just on time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's a good point. Last Tuesday, I went to work downtown Toronto, and I left the house. So it's weird when you drive from Hamilton to Aldershot or Burlington. It's weird because it's a 15-minute drive, but that 15-minute drive on a weekday morning, it's not a 15-minute drive. It's like a 30 to 40, and it's very variable. So you need extra buffer. And this time, I was trying to push to see the latest time because I've been going, and every day I go, I have to wait for my train, like always. I have to like wait 5, 10, 15 minutes. So I'm like, let me push this thing. So I left late. I think I left 30 minutes before my train. And you know what? There was traffic. There was an accident. So everything was slow. First of all, I was rushing. I was like, I started getting grumpy and in traffic. I was trying to get the shorter. You know, when you're late and you're trying to find the quickest way. If there's any lane that's moving, you're changing lanes. I find that it makes you careless. It makes you vulnerable. It makes you angry. I hate being in that situation. I really hate it. And I should have done better. Anyways, to cut the long story short, I made the train, but I had to, as soon as I parked my car, I ran. Like I was running to catch this train. Running. And then I got on the train. I'm like, where's my lunchbox? Oh, I left it in the car. So I left my lunch, breakfast and lunch. I was so mad. But I'm like, it's either I get off this train to go grab my lunch and I get late to work. I'm like, I don't want to be late to work. But the point I'm trying to make is buffer time. And I am kind of scared. I'll tell you why I'm scared. I'm scared that what are we passing to the next generation? Like we have some children in this hall. Are they going to grow up seeing us rush? I hate it when I rush like that because I always forget something or I'm always rushing. You can get into an accident. It's not being proactive. So we need buffer time. Okay. While we're going to round up this conversation, I wanted to ask our panelists, what is the way forward? How do we break? How do we become a generation that gets there on time? What are some practical things that we need to do?
So we've brought up buffer time, so I won't bring that up again. But I think just planning in general. I think a lot of times we have an idea of what we want to do, but don't think about how, like, the process of actually getting that thing done. So, for example, if going somewhere, what I have learned to do or what I've tried to do is go through like all of the steps in me getting there. Okay, how long will it take me to get dressed? How long will it take me to get there? Adding in that buffer time as well, and kind of plan backwards from that and use that to kind of work through my day so that I'm not, in a hurry. I have an idea of what needs to get done. And all of that is taken into account.
So in addition to that, I would say what I've seen people do as well, and I've done myself, is having like a gadget to help. So for example, I know that for my office life, we have like the calendar and everything is put in there. And there is like an alarm, so it reminds you 1 hour to, then it keeps counting down like that until 1 minute, and then, so it helps. And I noticed that it helps you from not putting too many things, because if you just have a mental picture of what you want to do and it's not written down, then you might miss things. You're missing your time. You can book two things together at the same time without realizing it, and then you have clashes and the like. So having something that can keep you up and doing is one. Then two is allowing that system. So if you find a system that works for you, allowing that system to be what will discipline you. So basically, if you put it in, like, for the calendar now, you have everything planned out there, then you must be disciplined to carry out those things, because by the time you do it consistently, maybe 1 week or two, you find out that your body system adjusts to something. So for example, like you talked about going to work, for me, I go to work every day, and for me, I don't have the luxury of doing hybrid or anything. I have to drive down to Toronto on a daily basis. So I wake up very early, and I found out that on weekends that I don't go to work, my body is already conditioned to that. So then I wake up early as well. So that's just a function of having disciplined my body for that. I started by using an alarm to wake up, consistently. And then I found out that my body is kind of, at that time every day, I would wake up regardless of either a weekday or a weekend, right? So I think these are a lot of things that can help us, especially in this generation where there's so many things that we get ourselves engaged in. We need something to keep us on track. I saw this as well done a lot when I was in school. My professors, they always, their calendar, when you talk to them, they'll be like, hold on. They bring their calendar up and they check. So it is after they discover that there is an opening before they will then give you audience or book that time with you. So I feel like, and it's something that they've disciplined themselves, that's what guides their life, and everything is sync. So it's sync on all their gadgets, right? So it keeps them up always.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've studied people that are extremely successful. They're extremely disciplined. Always have a plan. Okay, so I want you to touch on, Elizabeth, I think that it's not, there are times where you'll be late. It doesn't matter what you do, plan from now, this stuff that will come up. Just touch on the fact that there's times where you'll be late. Just touch on that.
Yeah. No matter how much planning you do, there's always things that are going to come up. For me, for example, I live at home with my family, and I try and plan. For example, Sunday mornings, getting to church early for like choir rehearsal and stuff. And I have my buffer time and everything set in there. I guess this is another tip as well. Try and plan the night before. Figure out maybe what I'm gonna wear or the things that I'll need for the next day and everything. And then my mom was calling me to come do something that I didn't plan to do, right? But I think, it's important to give ourselves some grace, right? Knowing that, we took the time to try and plan to be early or be on time, and it's just out of our control, that we shouldn't beat ourselves up over it. But we should still continue to put in the effort to do things the right way, to be on time, to respect people's time as well, right? For me, if I'm given a time to be somewhere and, it's something that I consider to be important and I'm late for that thing, then for me, that's saying I don't respect the, other people involved. I don't respect their time. And vice versa for me, like if I say a time for something and people don't come late, to some extent, I feel like, people don't respect my time. I understand that, like you're saying, things happen, right? But we want to be respectful of people involved when we call a time for something. So,
And let them know if you're running late.
Yeah.
Like, let them know ahead of time and explain. Don't just say I'm running late. Like, I hear that all the time. Like, yeah, just like explain. Just it's honor, and it's saying that I respect this time, and I tried, right? But just say I'm late. I'm running late. so what? Right? So let's always do that. If you're in a group, especially if you're in a group that needs to meet at a time, like you're in choir or something, like just let them know you're running late. And let's make it a habit because the next generation is watching, and we must make sure because if you're African or Nigerian, I think it's inherited. I think there's the late coming is part of the culture. It's like something big when you walk in after it has started. You feel like you're bigger, right? But we must make sure we squash that and not let that pass to the next generation. Okay, so Mofe, do you have any final words?
Well, I wanted to say something, but immediately you asked me that question. I can't really
I'm
remember.
sorry. Just any final words, some advice, some practical advice.
Well, since I can't really remember, I'd like to just touch on what you said about giving yourself some grace. Like while I was coming here, check the bus. The bus supposed to come at like 5:30 something. I ran. I was there 1 minute before. Bus never came. Then, well, I tried to call a cab, but then the bus came. So I came here like 10 minutes late, and I was like, on the way walking, I was like, what the heck? Oh, I was annoyed because like, again, I had planned for this thing to happen and it didn't happen. And that's a lot. That's true for a lot of things.
Yeah.
A lot of things that we plan, a lot of things that we put effort to don't always come out the way we want it to.
Yeah.
But we should always just, even if it sucks, just give yourself some leeway. Just give yourself some space to just accept it and move on sometimes. And understand that like no one is perfect. No one can be perfect. And it's okay to make mistakes sometimes, even a lot of times.
Yes. Excellent. We're out of time. I want to say thank you to our panelists. And we're not by any means saying that you'll be perfect. You should be on time every time because sometimes things would come up. But we're saying we're advocating for more transparency when you can't be there on time. But just do your best to be on time and don't. There's traffic, so leave early. And don't. Some people will leave late. They know there's traffic, and then they will now text say, "Hey, I'm running late. There's traffic." Yes, obviously there's traffic. You live in Toronto, downtown Toronto. There's gonna be traffic. So let's do better, and let's make sure we're passing the right message to the next generation. So thank you to our panelists. We appreciate you. Let's celebrate them.